Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we are returning to War in the Pacific, Admirals Edition, my Let's Play series against, against Hartwig, the long-time 15-plus year veteran of War in the Pacific. And we started the turn off immediately with a Mark 14 that worked! So unlike the Groper captain here, the SS Sculpin fires its fish at the Nozima Maru in the evening of May 1st, 1942. 2 torpedoes fired, 1 torpedo hit on the Japanese cargo ship, and heavy damage. Hell yeah, brother, we got a hit. I think that's like the first torpedo hit I've had in like a week, maybe. But at least he didn't fire off his entire arsenal of fish either. So that captain, maybe he gets a promotion or something like that. Meanwhile, the Japanese battleships are back to bombarding Batavia, and multiple battleships here bombarding. Our troops are going to be ground into dust. Their supplies are going to be ground into dust as well. You can see 117 casualties, a fair bit of disabled, not a lot of destroyed. Doesn't look like they're actually doing any damage to the supplies, which is interesting. But you can see here they're going to be worn down. Bombardments every single day, especially heavy bombardments with multiple battleships. They're going to be chewed up pretty quickly. Meanwhile, our own bombardment goes back and hits Savi. And you can see here we've got heavy cruisers bombarding at Savi. Where we are planning a landing against a Japanese guard force here. So we'll go ahead and fast forward here through the bombardment. We have 4 heavy cruisers and a light and a destroyer. A few Japanese casualties. We're hitting the runway quite a bit. Port hits, supply hits. The supply hits are the big ones, I think, for reducing the effectiveness. It's only a single guard unit as far as I'm aware. Meanwhile, we've got the Louisville coming in here as well, bombarding. I think it said this was the Amphibious landing task force here, so we'll go ahead and see all those bombardments. The AK comes in here, so it does say that we are approaching landing craft at 2,000 yards. The Japanese lose another 51 casualties here by close-in bombardment during the landing. Doesn't say any Allied casualties here. Here they are. We're unloading here over the beach, and we lose 63 men as casualties. A fair bit of disabled units, troops, but nothing really destroyed. Some disabled guns, some disabled vehicles, and 63 casualties here. I believe we're unloading a Marine regiment, if my memory serves correctly, for our first large scale, I guess large scale, kind of. The first landing with more than like a naval guard worth of troops, like more than a battalion of troops coming ashore. Meanwhile, the destroyer La Trompe bombards a little bit there, takes some coastal guns, but no casualties there on that particular move. The Silver Sides, meanwhile, firing torpedoes here at some Japanese patrol boats. I would prefer not to waste torpedoes on small coastal patrol vessels, but at least you didn't fire off 30 of them, right? Okay. Free XP for the Marines? Hell yeah. As long as they don't get too shot up, right? Because you lose victory points. Meanwhile, this was perhaps an ill-advised move by me, but I did go ahead and threw some P-39 Airacobras over Molemine because the Japanese had been bombing there with no escorts, as far as we had seen, for the last 2 turns. That probably baited me into fighting the Japanese in a battle that would not be ideal. P-39s versus Japanese fighters is not a good trade. Additionally, I did make the mistake of not getting rid of their drop tanks after transferring them there from, I want to say they came in from Lasho, so I had to fly in with drop tanks, and then I forgot to remove the drop tanks. So they're flying over Molemine with drop tanks after a transfer with high fatigue at a poor altitude, getting bounced by Japanese Oscars, and I'm guessing it's not going to go well. So P-40s would be preferred jet. I'd prefer the Warhawks, but the Airacobra is what we flew in. Now, this is a squadron that has to withdraw in 5 days anyway, so I'm not really worried about the aircraft losses because we're going to have to withdraw the aircraft anyway. I am worried about pilot losses, however. I would certainly trade aircraft for aircraft or even a 2-to-1 against us because these planes have to be withdrawn. if we could do some damage to the Japanese. The one positive is that we're flying over our own base, so pilots who do bail out are very likely on our end to be sort of saved, whereas any Japanese planes that are destroyed will not be. You can see it looks like our cap is reinforcing itself here, so we were down to, I want to say 7 or 8 aircraft, and now we're back up to 11 versus 11. So we've got yeah, history of the Great War. Spelling, right? Ariel. You know what's funny is I just watched The Little Mermaid the other day when our daughter was sick with a double ear infection. We threw on the Little Mermaid, and you know, she's 1, so she doesn't really get it anyway, but she does enjoy the lights on the TV. All right, looks like we got at least 1 Oscar there. I saw 1 Oscar get destroyed, so, you know, and a couple are damaged, so maybe we'll get some ops kills too. But we are getting shot to pieces pretty good here. Orientation of the map is driving you nuts, of course. Well, it's a thing. All right, that was not a good result. So 1 Oscar destroyed. It only claimed 1 Airacobra destroyed, so I'd take 1 to 1 if that's really what it is, but I don't think it is. I think that's misleading. We'll have to see what the inter-turn results are. Meanwhile, Japanese Sally's moving into bomb Batavia. We have our 2 Warhawks that are left and operational there on cap. Outnumbered 8 to 1. That is 8 to 1, right? 2 times 8, yeah. So I don't think they did anything. We did get 2 Sallies destroyed by flak, so that's nice. 4 damaged, and we lost 1 P-40. KI, whatever, Anne bombing some troops in China. The Mary's bombing some troops in China. Sally's and Sonia's bombing some troops in the Philippines. Some runway hits there. No supply hits, though, which is nice because we've got, like, no supply left in the Philippines anyway. Idas are bombing some troops in China. 2 more Oscars are sweeping over Molemine. You'd think we would have an advantage here. It said 7 to 2, but we just popped up the screen 2 to 1, so not sure what's up with that. No losses in that particular engagement. Plastic, yes. So this is, oh shit. So they also flew in bombers from Bangkok. You can see, so our intention to ambush the Japanese over Molemine. Well, we're at least getting to deal with Japanese bombers here, some Sallies, but they are escorted by 10 Oscars, which they weren't escorted by last turn. And our cap has already been attrited by the sweep from Chiang Mai, so they've already worn out our planes, worn out our pilots. We only have a few aircraft currently airborne, and the Japanese are coming in. We did plan, I want to say, a 15,000-foot cap with the intention of being able to dive on the Sallies here. Looks like we got at least 1 Sally there, and we damaged another. So this 1 remaining Airacobra doing work for a single plane. Claimed 1 Sally, destroyed 4 damage versus 1 more Warhawk. I'll take that. I'll take 1-to-1 trades. Meanwhile, we've got 54 Dauntlesses coming in from the Hornet. Actually, sorry, 54 SBD-3s from the Hornet. 18 SBD-2s coming in on Midway. Bombing Midway, which is another place we're planning for a counterattack here. 2 non-combatant squads destroyed, 4 disabled, 2 combat squads disabled, 80 Japanese casualties without loss for our bombers. So that's nice. Yeah, Plastic, this is of the same ilk of the Gary Grigsby series. It came before War in the East, so some of the quality of life things that change with War in the East are different. Unlike War in the East, this is 1-day turns as opposed to 1-week turns or whatever. So it's a much more like every single day is done. Also, it is a we go system, which I believe War in the East is I go, you go. So all results in all combat is simultaneously resolved. So that's a piece that's different. And I think the we go is really necessary for naval combat where you have units simultaneously resolving. I go, you go would be really problematic with naval combat in this kind of game, I think. And each day has multiple phases. You've got sort of a night morning phase, a PM phase, and then I think the next turn is the night phase again here. You can see we've also got an aircraft coming in from Pago with some Dauntlesses bombing the Japanese there. It doesn't seem like they're doing a lot of damage, but they're at least keeping their fatigue up and continuing to hit them. It looks like our air attacks from Pago came in a little bit more fragmented this turn than they did last. We had 4 B-17s there, 3 B-17s, and then 12 two-engine bombers here, another 10 casualties on this particular raid. So we're not really hitting them concentrated as we would like. 20 Warhawks also coming in. Well, Skolo, they just ambushed our Aerocobras over Molemine, so I'd say they're doing okay. Looks like we lost 1 Warhawk damaged, another 20 bombers dropping 500 pounders at low altitude. I don't think the Japanese have much of any flak left there. You have to, so to do the widescreen X, you have to edit the executable, and there's a specific prompt where you put in like the target of where the file is, but then at the end of that you add like a PX for your resolution to get it into your whatever resolution or size of the screen you want. I'm actually playing in a 1080p reso, so it's in a window on a 1440 monitor, but you can do full screen. I've found that the full screen actually tends to cut off the bottom ribbon of the like the industrial stuff, but I can send you the sort of the what I do anyway in the, I don't know if I can do it in the chat. I don't know if you're in Discord. If you are, I can send it to you there. No, they just ambushed our fighters over Molemine. Skolo. Japanese bombardment at Batavia. Yes, an RSI. I've played War in Russia. That was the original game you're talking about. Okay. That bombardment went better for us than I would have thought. Another Japanese bombardment at Clark Field. That yielded no results for anyone, which actually may look good to him because the last several times we got the better end of the bombardment. I think that's it for the turn. X, I'll throw it in the chat in a sec. All right, so we got some destroyers refitting, submarines as well. I remember, so the original war in the Pacific War, I believe it was called. I believe they posted it on Matrix's website at one point for free, which I assume was like trying to get people to play War in the Pacific. You play Pacific War and then you go in and you buy War in the Pacific. They did the same thing for War in Russia. Like it wasn't even an abandonware site. Like they just posted it for free on the company's website. And I played the original Pacific War, yeah, I played it over the span of like 2 days till like 4 in the morning each day. And I thought like, this is amazing. No, there's no other game I've ever played that's like this. So usually I show you the turn after I've issued my orders. But so we can see, this is the fighter group here that we just had fighting over Molemine. I'm withdrawing this group because they're due to withdraw in 4 days anyway. But you can see the squadron got absolutely savaged here. I think we lost 15 aircraft last turn. It definitely didn't look like that in the 10 aircraft. Okay. It didn't look like that in the combat results. Only 5 were lost in air-to-air combat, but 5 more aircraft were written off due to damage from that air combat. Meanwhile, the Japanese, we are claiming, lost 7 Sallies, 2 air-to-airs, 4 flak, 1 ops. I believe one of those air-to-airs was over Batavia. 3 Oscars were also lost with 2 in air-to-air combat. I actually think if you're going to give me 5 air-to-air losses on my end and I'm going to respond with 4 air-to-air losses for the Japanese, in a pilot-to-pilot trade perspective, I think we won that exchange, actually. In any event, 10 Air Cobras lost, 7 Sallies lost, and some of the Sallies were probably done by flak also. Well, you can see here 4 lost by flak, but still 7 Japanese Sallies, 3 Oscars, 1 Sally of a different type, 1-0. We lost a Skytrain and a Warhawk as well. Wasn't as bad as I thought. 12-11 in terms of total aircraft loss. If we take a look at pilots, we did lose 2 KIAs. I don't think any of those guys were aces because I didn't have a single P-39 ace. So you can see here, we actually have one P-39 pilot with 4 kills, F.E. Wolf. But yeah, so I mean, honestly, I'm crazy, but I feel like that's not a terrible result. We actually do have a P-39 ace, a Morrissey. I don't know if he flew or got any kills in the last turn. I'd have to take a look. But yeah. Meanwhile, we see a couple of pilots gain some defensive skills, one gain some experience, and yeah. So we're going to be pulling this group and these pilots. We're going to manually move the pilots into the pools, and then we're going to go ahead and withdraw the group because they're due to withdraw in a few days anyway. I want to make sure we save these pilots from disappearing into the ether so that we can reuse them in other squadrons. But the group, for political reasons, is required to withdraw on May 6th, which is just in 4 days. Meanwhile, if we take a look at Midway, we got another aerial attack in on Midway. I think the first large-scale attack from the Hornet here. You can see we have used up about 140 of our 534 sorties before we have to go ahead and replenish. No aerial torpedoes used, obviously, because we didn't do anything with that. We didn't lose any Dauntlesses either, so no ops losses on the Dauntlesses that were bombing there. You can see this group gained some experience, so that's good. You got some ground bombing skills here. You got some overall experience levels here, which the overall experience levels will still help when they go and bomb enemy ships. The ground bombing won't, but the overall experience will. You can see here these guys, next group gained a little bit of experience. The following group gained a little bit of experience. All very low mission counts because the carriers have flown very few missions, especially the Hornet, which is brand new. And then you can see this additional group also gained some experience. I don't think our fighters probably gained much. They might have been flying escort on the mission, so you can see, or CAP, Combat Air Patrol, over the carrier groups here, but you can see a couple of guys gained a little bit of experience. We didn't lose any Wildcats, and we didn't lose any Dauntlesses. Good day in naval aviation when nobody crashed landing their planes or anything like that. You hate walking in the middle of staff meetings. So there's that happened. Meanwhile, we also have some battleships which did replenish in the last turn, but they didn't quite replenish and then make it back to Midway. So we've got 2 bombardment task forces, each with battleships that are going to hit Midway next turn. So the air attack this turn helped keep the Japanese fatigued and tired and did some damage to the soldiers. And then the battleships are going to come in and hopefully do some more damage. We also have set up our tanker, which is replenishing replenishing ships at Curry. And then we have the AKEs and AEs replenishing battleship ammo at Curry as well, which we previously took back with the 3rd 298th Infantry Battalion. We have some additional troops on the way. We've got a base force on the way to Curry Island. We have the 2nd 298th on the way to Curry. And then we also have the 1st 298th on the way to Curry. So we'll have 3 battalions, which could form into an individual regiment if I did a better job of moving troops. The problem is, apparently I left behind an element of the troops here. So not the first there. We left behind a very small segment here, the 3rd 298th, which is, not the 3rd, sorry, the 3rd 298th 6th battalion. So a very small portion here, some of their anti-tank guns, mortars, and field howitzers. I don't know if we can disband them, because that's going to prevent me from merging into the 298th Infantry Regiment. It's a separate infantry regiment, so I'm not sure about that. But yeah, the Japanese took Midway a while back, and so we're in the process of retaking it. We can do that because we know as of 3 or 4 days ago, the Japanese fleet carriers were at Midway. We can see here, actually, interesting. So the Japanese battleships moving northwest here at Singapore. We also have spotted still some CVEs. Probably those are CVLs maybe, or maybe even CVs at Singapore. And then I think we spotted a couple of ships moving to the east out of Singapore a few days ago. So the carriers may have left there. But in any event, they're going to be too far away from Midway to interfere in the next 5 or 6 days. So we know that we're safe there. That also tells us that we're safe with our operation at Savi. You can see here we landed Elements of the 8th Marine Regiment here. 18 squads are disabled. 55 squads are ready for fighting. About 1,000 troops ashore. We have insufficient support, but we do have over 300 supplies ashore. We also do have additional troops coming ashore here of the 8th Marines. 3 APs still have more soldiers to unload. Some rifle squads. Looks like probably about 27 rifle squads to unload. So still about a quarter of the Marine Regiment strength. I think we'll allow them to unload finish unloading next turn, and then maybe go into an attack here to try and take back Savi. We know it's just a Naval Guard unit. We've been pounding them pretty heavy with bombardments and other things like that. Our cruiser task force here has fallen back to Pago, but they've already rearmed. Their ops situation is good, so they rearmed in the last turn. So they bombed and then pulled back and rearmed. So they should be good for another sprint forward to support the troops that are already ashore and continue to blast the Japanese troops there so far. We have not sunk any carriers yet, plastic, but we have damaged, I want to say it was the Hiryu with 2 torpedoes about a week or 2 ago in game. So at least one of the Japanese fleet carriers is out of action, presumably for a couple of months due to damage. Okay, so the troops are short Savi. I think we'll probably take it back. If not tomorrow, then the day after. The troops will probably take a little bit more time to get ashore at Midway. I'm thinking these guys can sprint ahead to Curry and start unloading this turn, and then maybe we merge them or get them into a task force in the next turn. So we'll say 2 turns to get there and unload, 2 turns to reload and get everybody up and running, and then 1 turn to land. I think we'll have our landing force on Midway by May 7th, which starts to push how comfortable I am with potential Japanese reinforcements arriving, because we'll have been there for about 7 to 10 days by that point. So we may need to start pulling those support troops back right around the 7th or 8th. So we'll see if we can speed things up a little bit and maybe take Midway by then. We know that Midway is also a small Japanese defense force, only 1,400 troops, 10 guns. So I think we can probably swing it here. The next bombardment tomorrow is going to have 2 task forces, 1 flagship by the Colorado, 1 by the Mississippi. We've got also the British Warspite is in here as well. And these ships do gain naval combat experience and things like that when they bombard and do other things like that. So that's helpful. Meanwhile, our own carriers were reforming their carrier air wings, and they are now at Bombay here after doing some reconstituting of different air groups. And we did one silly thing. It's a good thing as far as the game is concerned. A little bit ahistorical. I got to find the actual carrier. I can't remember which one had it. But we made a killer squadron of marine pilots here somewhere. Are they still? Did I keep them ashore? I think I might have left them ashore. No, I didn't. Where the hell did I put them? Did I pass over them? There's a freaking 60 plane squadron in there somewhere. I don't remember where I put them because this is not my turn where I actually edited anything. Are they on land? I think I might have pulled that. Well, they're certainly not ready. Here they are. They're in Calcutta. So I don't know why I forgot where I put them. In any event, they're a Marine squadron, as I think I already said. But we have a, oh my God, 67 aircraft. And when it gets to its max size, it'll be 102 aircraft. It's a little bit gamey. Not going to work on a carrier with 102 fighters, but boy, is that going to be fun when we have some land-air combat with our Marines here. They're not the only group I have. I've got other fighters. I've got other groups, but this will be one fun squadron, I think, eventually. You know, we've got, what do we have here? 385 aircraft at Calcutta, 277 are ready. Of those aircraft at Calcutta, we have 260 fighters, a good number of Hurricanes, a good number of Wildcats, and then we've got one P-38 group. Additionally, the P-38's production run, I believe, began on May 1st. So if we take a look here, 42.5. So the P-38E's production has begun as of 2 days ago. So we will be able to outfit additional squadrons with P-38s here before too long. Now, I don't think their production rate is very quick. We go here and we take a look at aircraft replacement pool. We filter out all types. We filter out fighters. Also, there's all the R&D stuff. But if we take a look here, the P-38 has a 24 rate production right now in this month. So what that basically means is 2 every 3 days, a little bit more than that. So that's not bad. You know, it's not 1 a day, but it'll quickly ramp up, and we've already got 15 in the pool. We've already sort of pulled squadrons from the East Coast that had P-38s, replaced them with different aircraft, and that's how we outfitted the first squadron of 27 of them. So I think we'll have a second squadron of 27 P-38s here. What is it? 2 every 3. So we need to get 12 more, which means, oh my God, I can't do math. 2/3, 16 days. 18 days. For a second squadron of P-38s here, which will be nice. But yeah. Meanwhile, I also already showed you guys the carriers are currently in Bombay. We've refitted some of their squadrons as well. We saw the Japanese bombing a couple of different places in China, including these guys who are just trying to retreat from the Japanese onslaught. It looks like there's 3 Japanese tank regiments, or I guess 2 now, moving toward Yan'an. We've already decided to abandon that. We are currently digging in, I have been digging at Cyan. I guess this isn't the turn where I've put all of my orders in yet. That's the other save, but I wanted to show you guys what it looked like after the replay. But we are working on building fortifications up at Cyan. They're currently 4. I'd like to get them to 5. The problem with Cyan is it's so easily flanked that you can't easily. You don't want to leave too many troops behind in Cyan, but you also don't want to abandon a base like that because it has production and other important things. Meanwhile, Quilin is also working on their fortifications. They're almost to level 4, so that'll be nice. They're already in good defensive terrain. Chikiang is at level 5 fortifications. They're a quarter of the way to level 6, which is the most dug in base, I think, anywhere on the map right now. Chungking is also 6 and cannot be expanded without considerable engineering resources and whatnot, and also takes just mountains of supply to move beyond 6. I think, is Bataan at 6? No, Bataan's at 4. So yeah, that is the most. Chungking's the most heavily dug in place in the game. And then the central base at Chikiang is number 2 and soon to be tied with Chungking. We are also working on building up our fortifications at Rangoon. We're almost to level 4 there, which will be a nice, if they do drive in and they flank us out of Rangoon, we will leave some sort of rear guard there to slow them down. The more fortifications, the better. Same for Pegu, which is southeast of Rangoon. It's at 3. It's working toward 4. Meanwhile, Molemine, which we have just taken, is almost to level 2 fortifications. So that is working its way forward. Mandalay, which is sort of in the middle of Burma, is at 3. Working toward 4. Also, we've expanded the airfield there considerably. If we go down to Bataan, where the Japanese were bombarding with their battleships and causing mischief here, you can see our assault value actually really hasn't fallen yet. Despite the bombardments, I want to say we're still basically within 50 assault value of where we were originally, so that's nice to see. Supplies are still over 40,000. The bombardments have not nuked our supply depots yet, so that's also good to see. We are also continuing to slowly make a little bit of progress on getting to level 5 forts. I don't think we will get there at Batavia, but we are making some progress. We're at 33%. Now, it's probably like a 1 a day scenario. I doubt Batavia will last another 57 Oh my God, 67 days. But we'll see. We've got enough supplies to last that long, unless the bombardments and other things like that suck it all up. It looks like we spent about another 1,000 supply there. Speaking of supply, situation in the Philippines, not great. You can see all of these guys are starving for more supply. They're not actually starving yet, but you can see these units are considerably under supply, half strength supply levels, or worse for many of these units. So if the Japanese do launch an assault at Clark Field, they may prevail. We may have enough supply to throw back one more assault. They don't really have the manpower to drive our entire force back, but in time, as those units starve of supply, it won't really matter, because, you know, if your troops are starving, they begin becoming disabled, they lose assault value, they become combat ineffective, and then even a much smaller force can overrun them pretty quickly. Meanwhile, is there anything else like really to show? We looked at the air losses. We looked at the, you know, what's interesting here is this screen here, this intel screen says we lost. Oh, never mind. Aircraft, same losses. Ship sunk. Did anything sink? I don't know if we heard anything from that torpedo that we hit. Doesn't look like it. And then the fish that was fired was from the Sculpin here, which still has considerable amounts of torpedo ammunition. It is led by Lieutenant Commander Chappell, L.H. Chappell. Good aggression score, 66. Good naval score, 69. This is a good sub-skipper, and he won't get sacked because he's good. Unlike Sack Skipper Incompetent for Groper. That's the name of the task force. Lieutenant Commander Casey Hurd. I feel the need to check in on this guy every single time because look at these ammo scores, all for naught, one single hit, didn't even do any damage because it was a dud, and then a bunch of misses. Just what a sad sack of shit. Like this guy, not the real guy. He became an admiral and was okay, but in this game, this guy's not so great. The game is not on Steam, Diabetes. It is on matrixgames.com. It was on sale a little while ago. I don't know that it still is. It's pretty expensive if it's not on sale. Meanwhile, but it's worth keeping an eye on, and sort of they run sales frequently. I want to say for the holidays last year it was like $16, which was a pretty good deal, I think. Ship availability. Do we have anything coming in? We got some AKs coming in one day. The San Diego coming in 2. Okay. CVE Long Island is in 19 days. That's going to be our first CVE. That'll be nice. I don't even think she has a carrier air wing. I think she's just largely intended to be used as an aircraft transport, which we've been using the Hermes for that. We also have another air group here, the Illustrious. The British carrier Illustrious is coming in. They will arrive on map in 10 days to be joined by the battlecruiser Repulse, which is fully repaired and ready for action. Meanwhile, the battleship Prince of Wales is 7 days left for, I believe, the system's repairs. She is still at cruise speed 6-1, so 1 hex per phase. The flotation and engine damage are in moderate levels. If we can get the system damage down, we will probably transfer her to London for faster repairs. I want to say it was like 150 days or so at Cape Town. Yeah, so I think, oh, by the way, so let's also look. So those pilots were shot to pieces at Molemine. I also did move some other P-40s into Rangoon. The squadron also has to be withdrawn here soon. If we take a look at our loss, not that group. We take a look at our aircraft here. We have 40 P-39s in the pools, so we do have a considerable number of P-40s in the pool, P-39s in the pools. It doesn't really matter though, because I don't have to replace those aircraft that were lost because the squadron's going to withdraw anyway. Group reinforcements, we've got some Blenheims coming in 3 days at Aden. We've got some Texans coming in San Francisco in 4 days. More P-39D Air Cobras arriving in eastern U.S. in 6 days. We have some Bolos. I believe those are transferring via rail to San Francisco for training. 16 more Blenheims at Aden. So actually in 8 days, we have 32 Blenheim 4s arriving in Aden, which we can transfer to the map, as well as some Hurricanes. 13 B-25s will be arriving in Aden as well in 11 days. The full group, it looks like. That'll be nice. That's our first B-25 American squadron. We've got the one Dutch group that was shredded. Some Swordfish are arriving on Hermes on map. She's off map right now. And what's the ZP? What the hell is this? Blimps. I didn't know. Okay, so I've never played the game past May in a PBEM. I didn't realize we get blimps, and they drop 250-pound bombs. Hell yeah, that's cool. So we get 8 blimps at Almeida. And then we've got some O-47s, which are some, looks like they're more Dauntless type planes, but without the bomb load. Those are reconnaissance. There's no aircraft in that group. And then we've got a bunch of P-40s that are arriving in Aden as well soon. I think they may have been, I think you can maybe do off-map transfers to Aden. I could be wrong. But yeah, we got some blimps. Hell yeah. Blimp bomb and raid. Let's go bomb Tokyo with blimps. Let's do it. Let's transfer them. We'll just float them on up to the Aleutians and blimp bomb Japan. Actually, what's the range on those things? It has a range of... Aw, that's short range. Only 7 hexes? Lame. We're not going to be able to bomb anything with that. So if we put them on A2, they couldn't even reach Petropavlovsk. Well, shit. I mean, we could always move them down to, you know, what would be funny is if we moved them into, if we like, we're not going to do that for the sake of this series, but if we just said, you know what? Don't take Savi, just leave the Japanese behind and then use our blimps to bomb them. I just would want to see the Japanese player reaction if suddenly they're like, wait a minute, I'm being bombed by blimps. I don't know why I think that would be so funny, but I think it would be. So, yeah. Could do like the hot air balloon bombing that the Japanese did in real life. I mean, you can't in the game, but it would be fun. Okay, so I think that's the situation. We're still probably several days away from landing at Midway. I'm hoping that Savi will fall in the next day or two with our Marines ashore, and we're still finishing unloading them. The Molemine squadron is going to withdraw after that air battle over that base. No indication of any Japanese movements as far as we can see in either China or Burma. Take a look at SIGINT. Is there anything interesting here? There's a unit planning for an attack on Batavia. That's not a surprise. There you have units there, but it does tell us a unit that is planning for it. We've got the 51st Recon Regiment planning for an attack on Siam. That could be interesting. They probably were beforehand because that would have been part of their big armored blitzkrieg that oh my goodness, I'm already forgetting his name. Our previous opponent, Lodrick, had moved a large formation of tanks, or that might have been Lieutenant Rainbow Slash who moved a large formation of tanks to Siam, so they could still be part of that. And then we've got the 21st Mortar Battalion planning for an attack on Quilan. So that could indicate a southern thrust, which is kind of where my head has always been. Like I've always assumed the Japanese would launch a southern thrust toward Quilan. It's what I would do because you got those good roads that let you go for the soft underbelly of Chungking through these mountains. I mean, it's more soft than going through Chittagong, and it's more direct than going through the mountains north of Siam. We're building up our fortifications on all these bases here to try and stop that, but that's what I would do. So, but yeah. So that is War in the Pacific tonight. I think that's all I've got for you guys tonight. It's going to be a short stream. We may stream tomorrow and do some strategic command, or actually I got a key for the new Unity of Command DLC. So the Desert Rats DLC for them. That could be fun to stream. But I think tonight that's what we've got. So I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Thanks for coming out again. Thanks for the support, Lars. Thanks for the resub. 9 months. We've had a baby now. So you've been subbed to me long enough for a child to be born. Captain Sully, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. John G, thank you for the follow. And like a G-man, you have more than one account. Thank you for the second account follow. Until next time, guys, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you once again for watching. And until next time, I'm out.